Hi gentlemen, welcome to 3.2 What are Fats under Chapter 3 Biological Molecules. In this video, I'll be focusing on these three learning outcomes. Number one, we are going to look at what are fats made up of. Next, we are going to look at some food examples that are rich in fats before we dive in deep into the main roles of fats, and also look at what is the food test to test for the presence of fats in our food. So, first question for you to pause and think. What happens to excess carbohydrates in our body? If we eat too excessively, what are the changes that our body will experience? I think immediately you will think about fats, right? What makes us gain weight? It's when we have too much carbohydrates in our body and it has served its purpose and has many extra left. This is when glucose. In these circumstances, excess carbohydrates will be stored as fats for storage, giving us the extra gains that we see on the weighing scale. Interestingly, there is a diet that was really popular a couple of years ago. People still practice them, and this diet is known as ketogenic diet. It is a low carbohydrate, high fat diet, which many people believe to have offer many benefits such as weight loss. Originally, this diet is meant for diabetic patients. This is because they have issues regulating their blood glucose concentration. So they cannot take too much carbohydrates, but they will still need to find sources of energy. And fats offer as an alternative source of energy for this group of people. But it started to become very popular as a weight loss diet. So let's watch this video to find out a little bit more.
It's official. The low-carb diet craze is over. Hello, New Year.
Okay, omniscient voice on TV, calm down. It seems every couple of years or so, there's a new diet to try. South Beach was popular during the early 2000s, then paleo took over towards the late 2000s. But around April 2017, you can see in this Google trend graph a new diet surpassing it.
Celebrities like Halle Berry and Kourtney Kardashian are going nuts for this diet. Keto devotees claim that if you banish carbs and eat lots of fat, your body will start to actually burn fat and you'll lose weight and even reduce your hunger in the process.
But what's lost in this keto chaos? There's no evidence that keto diets work better than any other diets for most people hoping to slim down. Although keto may be the latest in fad diets, it's had promising results elsewhere. It was used since the 1920s to treat epilepsy. Outcomes from this 2018 study showed its potential in treating subjects with type 2 diabetes. As a diet for weight loss, it's been around for a while. Keto's most recognizable form is from the 60s, the Atkins nutritional approach, pushed by the late Dr. Robert Atkins. R.I.P. homie.
The theory behind this diet, the insulin carbohydrate hypothesis, suggests that people start to burn more calories more quickly and burn off more fat.
But it's still just a hypothesis, and several high-quality studies have debunked these extra fat and calorie-burning claims. So exactly what foods can people eat on keto? People are supposed to get 5% of their calories from carbs, about 15% from protein, and 80% from fat.
That means staying away from things like bread, grains, rice, cereals, chips. You're definitely not going to be eating chips. And eating lots of fish, meat, eggs, don't throw the bacon at me. bacon, things like this. But the goal is to get your body into a state of ketosis. So basically our bodies are fueled primarily by glucose, which we get from carbohydrates. But when you eliminate carbs and you start to eat lots of fat, instead of burning glucose for fuel, your body starts to burn fat.
To get into ketosis, you need to eat less than 50 grams of carbs or 2 slices of bread per day. And of course, eat a lot of fat. Sounds simple, right? Basically eat no carbs and the weight will come right off. Well, actually, there's some evidence in super low carb diets being effective in appetite control. And low carb diets like keto can sometimes give people the impression in the short term they've lost fat, when in reality it's rapid water weight loss. Plus, the more extreme a diet, the less likely a person is to stay on track. The average person can't stick with the keto diet for even 6 months. It's especially challenging in a world with temptations of easy, overprocessed, and high-calorie foods at every corner.
When you stack very low carb diets like Atkins or keto against other types of diets, in the long run, people lose about the same amount of weight as they would on any diet. There are always outliers. There are always people who do really, really well, and it's possible you may be one of those people who really benefits from a ketogenic diet, but on average, they don't work for most people.
There's some hard truths about losing weight and keeping it off. It's really difficult. It takes a long time. And while keto may work wonders for some, like people with diabetes, the best diet overall is probably one you can stick with.
Interestingly, there are so many different diet plans out there, but ultimately, having a good, balanced, healthy diet will help you to sustain for a longer period of time. So what exactly are fats? Fats are compounds, molecules that contain hydrogen as well as oxygen. Well, compared to carbohydrates, fats contain less oxygen in proportion to hydrogen, and they are commonly found in plants and animals such as beef, salmon, pigs, and for plants they are typically found in fruits such as avocado. It's also rich in nuts as well, and olive is also one other plant that is high in fats. So where can fats be commonly found? There are good ones and there are not so great ones, but typically we can find fats in butter, cheese, meat, nuts, and oil. I hope you take down your notes as we go along in this lecture video, and you may pause and play as and when to keep to the pace of your learning. So fats can be divided into 3 different groups. The first ones are the steroids. So one example of steroids is cholesterol. I think if you hear from your parents and even grandparents, they are fearful of having high cholesterol because it is deemed to be detrimental to their health if there is a high level of cholesterol in their body. So cholesterol is a type of steroids. Next, which is the most common one, triglyceride. We'll be paying more attention to these in our syllabus, and I'll explain to you more what it means to be a triglyceride. And the last group of fats is known as phospholipid, which makes up 2% of the fats in our diet. So in this syllabus, you only need to know triglyceride, while steroid and phospholipid serve as additional information. So what exactly is a triglyceride molecule? Triglyceride is also commonly known as a lipid molecule, which ultimately means it is just the smallest unit of fats. So each molecule is made up of 1 glycerol, a chemical structure, and 3 fatty acid chain, as seen in this diagram over here. We can represent triglyceride molecule in 3 different ways. The structural formula on the left, the molecular structure in the middle, and the simplified structure on the right. You only need to know how to draw the simplified structure while the other two is for your information to visualize how a triglyceride molecule looks like. Alright, so as you can see, it contains 1 glycerol and 3 fatty acid chain in each molecule. So how is a triglyceride formed? It requires a glycerol to be chemically combined to 3 fatty acid. Do you remember the name of such a chemical reaction? It is condensation. So as we learn in carbohydrates, a chemical reaction known as condensation reaction occurs when 2 simple molecules join together to form a larger molecule with the removal of 1 water molecule. So if we look at the diagram over here, for glycerol to chemically combine to 3 fatty acids, there are 3 chemical bonds that is formed. So each chemical bond will result in 1 water molecule. And as a result, 3 water molecule is released in the process of forming 1 triglyceride molecule. So how is fats being broken down in our body? Through the process of hydrolysis. Like the name suggests and how we know about it, hydro means water and lysis means breaking down. So we need to use water to break down fats in our body. Apart from that, an enzyme also needs to be used. So what is the enzyme known as? Lipase. Because lipase is responsible for breaking down lipids. And in the process of hydrolysis, fat molecule plus, please add this into your diagram, 3 water molecules are required to break down glycerol, into glycerol and 3 fatty acid chains. So oftentimes we hear a lot about good fats and bad fats. So what exactly are they? And what is the difference between saturated fats and unsaturated fats? Based on the structure, I think there is a very clear difference. This is a straight chain, whereas the fatty acid chain in unsaturated fat seems to be broken, bent. Saturated fats are commonly found in products such as butter, your meat, milk, bacon. Too much of that is not good for your body. But there are good fats that can be found in food items such as avocado, salmon, eggs, and olive oil. And these are examples of good fats. So next time when you go to the supermarket and you look closely at the chart, you can pay attention to how much saturated and unsaturated fats you can find in your food item. If you want to be healthy, you have to reduce the amount of saturated fats that you take in and increase the amount of unsaturated fats that you consume. So this table shows the comparison between saturated and unsaturated fats. Right? And as mentioned, the structure for saturated fat is because of the straight fatty acid chain. Whereas in unsaturated fats, there is a kink, a bend in the fatty acid chain that results in how it looks like as an unsaturated fat molecule. Saturated fats are commonly found in animals, while unsaturated fats are commonly found in plants. Typically, saturated fat exists as solid at room temperature. So you think about your pieces of bacon, pieces of poultry, they always exist as solid. But for unsaturated fats like your olive oil, it exists as liquid form. This is because, right, for your information, okay, this is additional information for you to appreciate the difference between saturated and unsaturated fat. Right? Since for saturated fat, it has straight chain, saturated fats can be packed very closely together. Alright, so it exists as a solid because they are closely packed together. But for unsaturated fats, because of how it looks, it might be more challenging for unsaturated fats to be packed. So as a result, it exists as a liquid at room temperature. So Eskimo is a group of people with very extreme diet. They traditionally consume high fat, high cholesterol, and have very little fiber in their food. This is because of the environment that they grow and thrive in. Very few plants to offer them as part of their food. But they traditionally hunt for animals like whales, seals, walrus, and often eat them raw. So these food items are really rich in fat. And why is this so important to them? Why is consuming fats key for Eskimos? It's because of the environment that they thrive in. In very, very cold temperature, fats help to insulate so that the body does not lose heat too quickly. So what is the function of fat? Number one, it is a good source of energy as fats contain 2 times the amount of energy as compared to carbohydrate. But take note, carbohydrate is always the primary source, which means your body will always use carbohydrates before turning to fats as a secondary source when there is no carbohydrate left. So it's really easy to gain fats, but it's really difficult to burn fats and lose weight because your body will always turn to carbohydrate first before burning down fats. Secondly, it can help to prevent heat loss as it is a insulin material. So you can see animals in these pictures, the polar bear have a layer of blubber under their skin that will keep them warm. Fats also acts as a solvent. There are some vitamins in our body that cannot be dissolved in water. It can only dissolve in fats to be carried around to the rest of the body to serve its purpose. Fats can also be used to form cell surface membrane. As you can see in this diagram over here, alright, if I were to zoom in, okay, I can't do that, but you can see that there are 2 layers of phospholipid. This is how one layer looks like, and there are 2 layers that forms the cell surface membrane. Right? And it helps to regulate the movement of substances in and out of the cell. Lastly, fats help to reduce water loss. You typically realize that after a couple of hours in the day, there is this layer of oil on your skin, and it gives you the extra shine, and sometimes it might feel very uncomfortable and you want to wipe it and clean it. But it's important to note that oil helps to prevent water loss so that your skin can remain moist. So excessive washing of your face is also not good because you are ripping away the layer of oil on your face that helps to prevent water loss. Lastly, fats is also important to help us to cushion our vital organs such as our stomach and our liver. So typically, a thicker layer of fats can be found in these important organs to protect them. And between men and women typically store fat very differently. Women typically have 6 to 11% more body fat. This is very important, and the fats typically concentrate around our lower body parts to allow us to prepare our body for pregnancy. So the last thing for this video is on how to test for fats. Okay, this simple translucent spot test is it's not covered in your syllabus, right? But if you think about it, if you eat very oily food such as chicken wing and potato chips, oftentimes you'll see this layer of oil that remains on your hand, and if you dab it with tissue, you can see the spots being formed. But this is not how we will test for fats in the lab setting, right? I'll introduce you to the test that we'll use, known as alcohol emulsion test. Let's take a look at this video to see how the test is conducted. Alright, we will need ethanol as well as deionized water. So in a clean test tube, you will add about 3 to 5 drops of oil. Next, you will add ethanol, about 3 cm cube, 2 to 3 cm cube, in order to break down the oil into smaller droplets. So you can use your fingertip as a gauge to add 3 cm cube of ethanol. We need to break down the oil in ethanol, so we can use a glass rod to mix and break it down. You can see small little droplets suspended in the oil, so that the results will be more obvious as well. Next, add equal volume of water to the mixture, so about 3 cm cube, and observe the change in the test tube. You can see that a white cloudy emulsion is produced. Alright, and I'll pause here for you to take a better look. So, likewise, for every food step, you need to know the steps as well as the observation. You need to be able to write the steps as well. So first, you add about 2 to 3 cm cube of ethanol to a drop or 2 oil sample in a clean test tube. Shake the mixture thoroughly or use a glass rod to mix the mixture together. Right? This is to break down the oil into droplets. Then you add the water into the mixture. Okay, very important. You must first add ethanol first, then water. It cannot be the other way around. Right? If fats is present, a cloudy white emulsion will be formed. So likewise, if given solid samples, we learned in the previous video that we must first prepare a liquid sample out of the solid. So let's take a look here with peanuts. You'll get to do this in the lab. Let's first remove the skin and then crush them into smaller pieces. So precise, which is crush them into smaller pieces, and that will do. You put it into a clean test tube or a container. Instead of water, you add ethanol directly into it because ethanol will dissolve the fats. Mix it thoroughly so that the fat in the peanut will dissolve in the ethanol. And then using filter paper, filter the mixture to obtain the solution. Then you conduct the test by adding water. If you are doing multiple food tests, it is important to separate into clean test tube so you don't contaminate the main original solution. And there you have it. A white emulsion is formed when water is added. Right? So the most important thing to take note of when working with food samples, solid samples for fat, it is to add ethanol and crush it, right? This step over here. Okay, and crush it, not water. Right? And that comes to the end of the video on fats. I hope you do the practice question, checkpoint question in the notes, and then I'll review in class.